Detroit Den 313. We are back. Stephen Will talking that Detroit Lions football. But before we get started, you know what to do. Bang that subscribe button. Don't forget the bell icon so you don't miss any of our new content. Steve, what we talking?
It's been about, I'd say, close to 24 hours now since, we're a little behind. I had to take a couple days off. But yesterday, about this time, it was released that Josh Reynolds, the door is closed. He's going to the Denver Broncos. I'm going to share, some thoughts about Josh Reynolds, man. Listen, a lot of people, and I've said this before, have been beating him up for his terrible NFC Championship game, and I think it's very undeserved. Like, look, we could criticize and whatnot, but Josh Reynolds was very good for us while he was here. What was he here for? 2 years? 2 years with the Detroit Lions. He had one bad game in 2 years, and I get it. It was terrible timing. I'm kind of on the fence where I'm not mad that he's gone. I think we have some options to replace him, but we just got to defend Jay Ray a little bit because I think he was a very good Detroit Lion for 99.3% of the time he was here.
Who are you talking about? No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do him like that, man. I will do him after this though. But I agree with you. I do believe that we need to pay a little bit of tribute to him, man. He did his thing, man. He was a complete safety net for Jared Goff while he was here. I don't know how he's gonna do without Jared Goff. It'll be pretty much untapped territory for him. Only played the 8 games without Jared Goff as his QB, and he's going to a spot to where I don't know. Are you or I playing QB?
Yeah, lots of questions out in Denver. I think they're in a position to at least draft a young rookie quarterback, and that might have been why they wanted him for that safety blanket for whoever they're bringing in. Okay. JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix. I don't know. Are they going to get aggressive and trade up? I don't know, but they're going to get a quarterback in the draft. I think that's why they went after Reynolds, to have that same type of chemistry that, hey, man, we're bringing in a rookie quarterback. We don't want you to be the guy. We want you to just be a nice little solid piece for him. They also traded Jerry Jeudy, so I'm not really sure what the Broncos are doing this year. I'm not sure. Not my problem, though.
Yeah.
But with Reynolds being gone, the door's closed. There's some conversation about, does he come back? Does he leave? We now have an answer. So we have to look at some replacements. Let's start with on the Detroit Lions roster today. I think I've got 2 names. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Antoine Green. Is there anyone else I'm missing for possible replacements?
No. Yeah, I'm a little bit shocked, but I say no.
I don't think it's a great option. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is probably the only name worth mentioning. He was kind of, we're familiar with him from his Michigan days, Detroit local kid, kept a little tabs on him while he was in Cleveland, traded for him last year, didn't really get a lot of production or playing time from him. So it's kind of like, what kind of Donovan Peoples-Jones are we getting? And we know he's an athletic freak, but is he the guy to step up and be that big X receiver?
I don't think that Donovan Peoples-Jones is the answer. I think he's a guy that definitely can contribute to this team, but I don't see him as being the guy that steps into the shoes of a Josh Reynolds.
So you'd think it'd be a downgrade?
I think that right out of the gate, they're just two different players. Josh Reynolds was just the type of guy that had a complete understanding what Jared Goff was looking for. They had that ability to be able to communicate with no words or signals being said. That's just a lot to be able to do in a short period of time for Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think that I think he'll be able to contribute to this Detroit Lions team, but to come in and replace Josh Reynolds, I just don't see it. Hopefully I'm wrong.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's an upgrade. And I think if we're looking at adding someone to the roster, we need it to be an upgrade. Obviously, you don't want to downgrade at anything. But if that's not the option, if the option's not already on the roster, I don't think Antoine Green's definitely the answer. I think you and I have combined more catches than Antoine Green. So let's look at free agency. Who's still out there in free agency right now? I know I've got 3 names down. I know one of them you really like. One of them we both really hate, Odell Beckham Jr. Yeah, pass. And by pass, I mean not the ball. I mean pass on the player and just help him pack his bags to go somewhere else.
I think he's on the right track. What he's doing, man. I think he's going to those Miami Dolphins. I see him as a Miami guy, and I wish him nothing but the best. I tell you all the time, my son absolutely loves Odell. So good luck to you, Odell. Just not in Detroit.
I've also seen a lot of talks about him joining the Kansas City Chiefs. He's rig chasing.
Yeah, could be.
And the Chiefs kind of need a receiver. But for Detroit Lions, we've already talked about Odell Beckham. We've done a whole episode on him. Hard pass. So what about Tyler Boyd?
Tyler Boyd's my man. You know, like if we're going for free agent route, I'd love to see Tyler Boyd. I think he is very underrated. If we could get him for the right price, I would be all in. I was a little bit surprised to see Josh Reynolds sign for virtually 7 million, up to 7 million a year, not even 7 million guaranteed. Well, up to 14 million, so about roughly 7 million a year over the 2 seasons that they signed him. So I thought the Lions might sign him for that type of price tag. So, especially it being incentive based. So I don't know what the Lions offer was, but I'd be interested to find that out. Are you surprised that the Lions wouldn't pay up to 7 million a season for Josh Reynolds?
I think this is what the Lions did. I think that was a 1-year contract on the table, and this is all speculation. I think the Lions had enough respect for Josh Reynolds to say, "Hey, this is the offer that we're going to give you. 1 year, 7 million. If you can go out and find something better than that, by all means, pursue. Have you and your agent sit down, talk about some options. If nothing's there, this is our max deal for you. 1 year, 7 million." So I think when the Broncos offered the same and added an extra year, that might have been the tipping point. And that's just a guess. But I think Brad Holmes was probably pretty delicate with handling Josh Reynolds. Not to say like he should have got like special treatment or anything. He wasn't like a superstar, but I think they just knew the type of player he was. Like, hey man, go out, look for your deal. If there's nothing out there for you, we'd love to have you back in Detroit, but this is our max offer.
I think you're dead on. It's something that I've seen players continuously talk about. Lions are pretty straightforward with how they do business. They let you know there's a business side of it and there's a personal side of it. They try not to mix the two as much as possible and try to give you your options and let you move from there. And I agree. I'm pretty sure that's probably exactly what happened. Not maybe down to the numbers, but I'm sure he knew what their offer was and if he could go do something better. I'm just surprised they wouldn't give him 7 mil.
Yeah, this is what's on the table. Take it or leave it. Come back. Let us know what you want. But here's another name for free agency. And I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure he's a free agent. Would a DJ Chark reunion be possible?
I'm not. I just think that there's better options out there than DJ Chark.
On this episode, maybe a better option, like me.
I don't know that either of us are better options, but I think there's some better options in the draft. So for me, as much as I love his size and speed, he was just underwhelming for me. He was like just enough. It was like, you know, when the missus gets me those like a half of chocolate chip cookie.
You want the whole thing.
I want the whole.
You want the whole tray usually.
I want the tray of cookies. So don't. A half was enough to like suffice the getting the taste, but I want the whole cookie.
Are you really saying DJ Chark is half of a chocolate chip cookie?
Yeah,
I'm not even sure he's a chocolate chip, if we're being honest. I don't know. I think the draft, obviously, that's my third way to get a replacement for Josh Reynolds is the draft. So I've got a bunch of names. We've talked about every single guy on this list that I have. So I'll just read off who I got, who I think is realistic at 29. I think there's obviously some fantastic receivers, but we're not going to be in the range for all of them. I got Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Leggett, Jaylen Pul, Jalen McMillan, Malachi Corley, Javon Baker, Keon Coleman. Any of those names stick out to you? All of them?
Javon Baker, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Leggett. Those are all guys that I really, 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 really like to play the X. Now, if we're going to play more of a style of positionless receivers out there, guys that are just filling those positions, not defined as outside guys or inside guys, then I could move into some other guys. Malachi Corley is a guy that I really like as well, but he is more similar to an Amon-Ra St. Brown to me, except he's built like a running back. You know, he's got big, strong legs. His legs look like Saquon Barkley's. He kind of reminds me of a more explosive version of an Anquan Bolden. Yeah, he's gonna get the ball. He might run you over. He might run around you. He might give you a juke. They call him the Yak King for a reason. So I think that those are the guys that I like. But being true to what I'm looking for, Donnie Mitchell, Xavier Leggett, and Javon Baker.
Anquan Bolden, Lions legend. I can't believe you didn't throw that in there while we're on the topic.
Apologies.
Probably one of the top 5 greatest receivers of all time to ever suit up for the Detroit Lions. Megatron, Tom Kennedy, and Anquan Bolden in that order.
I'm a little bit surprised you didn't talk about Tom Kennedy as replacing Josh Reynolds. I'm going to let Tom know. Don't worry.
Tom Kennedy could come on this team. He'll catch 100 balls, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. It's not even a problem. So On my list, we just did an episode on Jaylen Pul, wide
Yeah.
receiver from Washington. I'm down to 2 for the draft list. I got Xavier Liggett, Jaylen Polk. I just like Jaylen because I think what he does at Washington, he was the number 2 guy, could have been the number 1 on a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
Big, physical, doesn't mind blocking. I think he'd be a perfect fit. I think he makes the offense complete. And I've seen a lot of people say, like, man, you guys are just really high on everyone. You guys are just like everyone's a perfect fit. Well, that's not entirely true because there's some guys that we just don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole in the draft. Cough, cough, Devondre Sweat. But I just think Jaylen Polk on this offense, a blocking wide receiver, can catch the ball, big, physical, good fit. Same with Xavier Leggett. I think those are my 2 guys for the draft to replace J. Ray.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Polk at 29. But if I could get Polk in the second round, good night. Good night. Thoughts and prayers, as you say.
Would you take Leggett at 29?
I would. I'd take
in a
Leggett
heartbeat.
at 29. And it depends on what's on the board. I don't know, man. This draft has been an emotional process. So, and I tell you all the
You
time.
sound broken.
Yeah, I tell you all the time. Football is not emotional. It's business. You know what I mean? And it's turned into a thing to where you watch so much film on these guys, and then free agency happens, and then other teams are making certain moves, and you're like, okay, wait a second. What about this guy? What about this guy? So I've kind of gotten to a spot to where I really want to get this defense great. And I romanticize the receiver position and getting guys like Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Leggett, but I'm really in a space to where I'm leaning more on guys like Polk and Javon Baker, and even there's some other guys that we're going to do shows on, so I'll keep them in our back pocket. But I'm leaning more to those guys in round 2 because I want to shore up this defense in round 1.
You're finally taking the Steve Perkins approach?
I am. You've grinded on me enough, man, that I think you wore me down.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it because I was just about to say, recapping this episode, like talking receivers, and for Josh Reynolds, like receivers still not number 1 on my board. I think it's a double-edged sword. I want the defense to be really good. I don't think it'll be elite. I want it to be really good. But the double edge of that sword is I also don't want my offense to get stale. We're kind of, Goff's been here for a while. Amon St. Brown's been here a while. I know we still got Sam Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery. Those are some new faces. But I think when you have Goff, like your offense is kind of, you know what it is. It's not going to be the greatest show on turf. You're not going to be throwing for 500 passing yards. So is a receiver that big of a need when your defense last year was like 23rd or the bottom 3rd in a lot of categories? And we had a great free agency. So we're in the right direction. But I think a pass rusher and maybe even a cornerback now with the Cam Sutton stuff is just more important to me. Yeah. I like all these receivers. So if I have to draft a defensive end and that means missing out on a Xavier Leggett, it's just kind of the way the draft works. You can't get all your guys. So I think that's just the way I'm headed. Like I like talking receivers. It's fun. They get the ball. It's fun for fantasy football, but give me that defensive end who on 3rd and 8 can put pressure on a quarterback and change a game in a different type of way.
100%, man. And just give me one of the things that Brad Holmes talked about that I really liked was I'm not looking at what my roster looks like before we played any football games and going, man, we're in a good space. I'm not looking at this roster week 1 and saying, man, we have a Super Bowl caliber team. I'm thinking about what this team looks like in November when guys got banged up and banged around and we're missing guys. What will this team look like then? And that's kind of where I'm at. So when we're talking about guys like Marcus Davenport, he's a guy who's had some issues, right? But he can produce. We got to make sure that if he has to spend some time, out of the lineup for a little bit, the guy who steps in can take care of business. So I'm looking at a couple of positions after that press conference, it left me looking at a couple of positions that I wasn't looking at as hard, even at our safety position. Now I'm looking at safeties because we got Kirby Joseph and we got Ife Melifonwu, right? But who's our other safety? You know what I mean? So Brian Branch is my nickel guy, so, and I love what he does at nickel, but in lieu of having to take Branch out of that nickel space, maybe I go and get a safety in this draft. You know what I mean? So I don't have to move Brian Branch to that nickel or to that safety spot, and off of that nickel where he's up close to the line of scrimmage, pressing, playing good man coverage, on those guys on the inside, or sticking his nose in the box. I like him in there, so I don't want to have to move him out of there. I mean, it's just there's some other spaces that I would like to utilize some picks now when I really start to peel back all the layers of this onion, man, and we get closer to this draft.
What position group you think is most important going into the draft to address?
For me, I gotta say that defensive end spot. Defensive end, edge rusher. It's my most important position. I feel like when I'm looking at this thing, can we get by with Amik, and can we get by with Carlton Davis and Kirby Joseph and Ife Melifonwu? No, we can't get by. Those guys are phenomenal to me. Like, those are guys that are going to get it done. I feel comfortable with all those guys. Do I feel comfortable with Emmanuel Mosley getting back into the mix? 100% I do. Jack Campbell, year 2. 100% Alex Essaloni, without question. And even Derek Barnes, I think Derek Barnes offers some special things to this defense. So I feel comfortable with all of those guys. It's that one position when I look at this thing, I don't feel comfortable with Marcus Davenport, knowing that he's going to be out there down and down out. We've seen a nice, strong body of work from Pascal and Kaminsky to know what they are and what they aren't. I want an impact player at that position to add to this defense, and thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, I want this defense to be really, really good. I'm pretty much locked into best player available defensively. My board might look a little different than Brad's, but Brad's is the one that's going to matter. So let's say I have a really high ranked corner like Kool-Aid McKinstry and a really high defensive tackle like Braden Fisk who can get a pass rush. Which one's going to be more important? I don't know. That's up to Brad, but I'm pretty much good with any player on defense to make this team better. I hope it's a defensive end, Leitu Latu, Braylon Trice. Like, there's some guys out there that I'd really like to have, but it's really just going to be down to who does Brad have ranked higher than the next other player. It's his decision, his job, not mine.
Yeah, I agree.
So, guys, we talked about Josh Reynolds, talked about some replacements. We kind of talked a little bit about the draft. What's more important? Is it wide receiver? Is it defense? Who do you guys like to replace Josh Reynolds? Is it someone on the team, someone in free agency, someone in the draft? Leave some names in the comments. Hit that like button. If you're new here, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later.
Peace.